Question number 11. The points P, Q, R, and S are the vertices of a parallelogram as shown on the diagram. Okay. Find the length of PQ in the form, so they want you to simplify the square root where K is an integer. Now, very important. Let's first go to the textbook. Okay, so in the textbook, I'm going to take you to page 300. So let's just see in the textbook, question 11a. Okay. Why do I take you? Because it's just the length of a line segment. And again, they said, please just memorize these formulas. It's not difficult. So it's on page 300. It's in the mathematics textbook, y equals mx plus c, grade 10-11, part 1, chapter 7. Length of a line segment. We make use of Pythagoras theorem. So we square, square, square. So square the hypotenuse, square the two shorter sides. And then to get that length, we take the square root. So that's why it's the difference in x squared plus the difference in y squared. If you start with 2, then just start with 0.2 there. You can start with 1, but don't, as I said there, you cannot start there with 2 and then there with 1. That's incorrect. Okay. And there is just an example. I like marking my points. So this is for me 0.1. So I mark it 1, 1. This is 0.222. Doesn't matter. And then the substitution is just easy. And I square and I find the square root. Can I just show you what they want now? Now, this is actually something we more do in AS level. So it's 9/8. So then take 9/8 and then start dividing with it. So say 9/8 divide 2 and I get divide 2 and I get 49. And then 7, 7, 7, 1. So this is going to be 2 times 1 times 7, 2. So if you put the square root there, then that one can go out because it can divide by 2. So it's going to be 7 square root 2. That's what they want. Okay, something that we use more in AS level, but not difficult because you can do with prime factors. Let's just go to the question paper. Okay, so the question paper, and we're going to do that one quickly. Okay, there it is. So I'm going to start with number A. So it's the length of PQ. Now it's very good to already write the points in here. That will also help. -5, -2. Q, -1, 6. R, 7, 7. S, here, 3, -1. Okay, so let me go P. What is P? It's going to be -5, -2. What is going to be Q? So if I'm going to, it's -1 and 6. And then I mark the points. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. And please know your formula for the length, as I showed you. So it's the square root. Now I'm just going to, usually I start with x. So I say the difference in x, and I square, plus the difference in y, and I square. So I'm going to get that difference. So x2, so it's going to be -1, x1, -5, and I square. Plus y2 is going to be 6 minus -2, and I square. And that is just going to simplify. Then that is going to be, now this is going to be -1 plus 5. So that is going to be -4 squared. And that's going to be 6 plus 2, so it's going to be 8 squared. Now, luckily, because you take the square root, so it's just going to be 16 plus 64. I'm just going to continue here. So it's going to be, so if I'm adding up that 2, I get 80. Now, can you remember what I said? You can even write it here. Take the prime factor. So it's 2 and it's 40. And it's 2 again. You continue with 2 until 2 can not go anymore. And then you go 2 and it's 5. And 5 and it's 1. And then I'm going to say this is going to be 2 to the power of 1, 2, 3, 4 times 5. So this one can get out again by saying 4 divided 2. So 2, so 4 divided 2 is 2, okay? And then you leave the 5. And if they want to get that PQ equals 4 square root 5. Although search is not even in AS, I did a chapter in the AS level textbook on search, just explaining you a little bit because it's a good way of simplifying answers. Okay, but for now, just remember your prime factors, and the ones that's even you can take out, and the ones that's not you leave inside the root, and that's the answer. Okay, now we're going to look at question number B. Let's just move it up. Find the coordinates of the point M, the midpoint of PQ. So it's again P and Q, and now they just want the middle, M. Okay. Again, I'm just going to take you to the formula in the textbook, and I'm just going to show you the formula. That's the first thing, 11b. Let's just see where will we find it in the textbook. Okay, that will be on page 304, book 1, part 1, chapter 7, coordinate geometry. Okay, there is the midpoint. That's a very easy. You just add the x values, you divide it by 2. You add the y values and you divide it by 2. And that's that. It's exactly what I did. And then you get the coordinate point. Page 304 in the textbook. Okay, let's go and do that. So definitely you must know that formula. If you maybe forgot the others, but don't forget that one. That's an easy one. Okay, so again, I can just use these points that's already there written. So I'm just going to start, and I'm going to say M. To get M, it's going to be x1 plus x2 divided 2. That's for the x values. And then y1 plus y2 divided 2. Now, because it's the same points, these points, I'm just going to put it in. So in the place of x1, I put negative 5. And in the place of x2, I put negative 1. Okay, and I divide 2. And then in the place of y1, I put negative 2. Okay, let's just get the pen. Negative 2. And in the place, I put 6. And I divide by 2. Okay, and that is going to be negative 6 over 2. And that is going to be 4 over 2. And if I write that, so M is equal to negative 3 over 2. And that. Forgot to tell you the marks, so let's just go back. So in the marks of that one, by substituting, by getting that, they would have gave you a mark and then your final. Yes, I think if you do that and you simplify, say you came up to the 80, I think it's rather better to say if you come to that 80 and then if you were able to simplify it to this. And then this one, by just substituting in there and then the final. Okay, let's do the next one. Show that MS is perpendicular to PQ. Okay, now I want you to take you to a few things. I think I want to first take you to the summary. What is perpendicular? So if you look, this is question, our first one going to take you to this one. Because there's parallel and perpendicular very nicely in the summary. And you will find that on page 343. Okay, the end of the chapter. But can I just show you, and I want to show you here, and please take a little bit of time and just go and memorize the things in the summaries, because there you see all the formulas. There was the midpoint, there was the distance. But in the summary, if straight lines are parallel, their gradients are equal. So M1 is equal to M2. Okay, so the value in front of the x, y equals mx, that m. So if straight lines are perpendicular to each other, the gradients are reciprocal fractions with opposite signs. That means if the one is 2 over 3, the other one will be 3 over 2, but the other one will be negative 3 over 2. Because if you multiply it, you will get negative 1. And that is very important that you know there. Then I can take you to the other one I wanted to show you. Okay. So if I'm looking at this, show that MS is perpendicular to, I must basically just work out the gradients of both. So let's just see. Okay, let's just make it a bit bigger. This is on page 306, okay? And this was example 7. Find the gradient of the line joining the point. So I'm going to find the gradient. Now, how do I find the gradient of the line? It's difference in y over difference in x. Do you see? And then if I'm doing this, C and D, difference in y over difference in x. Do you see that? So what can you tell about that lines? Because the gradients are equal, you can say they are parallel. Okay, what can you say about these two lines? They are parallel. If they are perpendicular, then this one would have been negative 4 over 3, one of the two. So just there, you can page 306. Okay, I'm going back to the question paper. There. I say show that MS is perpendicular to PQ. So the most important is you must first get the gradients. So let's start, and I'm writing the points down. I just want to make it a bit smaller that you can see I'm getting the points from the top there. Okay. It's just very high, but I'm getting it from here from the top. So the point, okay, M I got there. Do you see? But S is there. So let's just write down the point. So M is negative 3 and 2. And what is the other one? S. Okay. I want to make it not so big. S, and what is S? 3 and negative 1. Okay, and then P, I'm getting P here. Do you see? It's negative 5 and negative 2. And then I'm getting Q, and that is negative 1 and 6. Okay, now I'm going to work out that gradients. So let's just start. I'm first going to get the gradient of MS. Now, as I said, don't forget that the formula, and maybe I can just say the formula for gradient is y2 minus y1, always y is on top, x minus x1. Now, I'm going to just call it x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I do the same, call it x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, and now I'm going to start filling in. So if I'm filling in the place of y2, I'm at the blue, I'm going to put negative 1, and I'm going to put subtract, and in the place of y1, I put 2. And in the place of x2, I put 3, and I put negative 3. And if I simplify, I get negative 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. And that's negative a half. Okay. And then, if I'm going to find the gradient of PQ, going to do exactly the same. So, in place of y2, I'm going to put 6. In the place of y1, do you see it's there? I put it in brackets. It's negative 2. And in the place of x2, I put negative 1. And in the place of x1, I put negative 5. And if I simplify it, it's going to be 6 plus 2, so it's 8, over negative 1 plus, so 5, so it's going to be 4. And that is going to be 2. And then I can say, from this, can you see there are reciprocals? Can you see different signs? So, therefore, I can say gradient. So, okay, let's call this M1, this M2. Therefore, M1 times M2 is equal to negative 1. So, therefore, MS is perpendicular to PQ. Did you see? If it was the same, it's parallel, but now it's perpendicular. And again, if you come to the 2, they would have gave you for every one that you got there, the 2 gradients, then showing that it's -1 and then ending up establish that it's perpendicular. Okay, and that's how you do that one. Let's just go to the next page. I think there's a final one which I want to do here. On this question. Okay, so find the area of the parallelogram. Now remember, and I want to just take you to the formula for the area of a parallelogram. If I take you, and I'm going to show you, it's in the textbook, it's part 2, and it's question 11D. There it is. Okay, there is the formula of parallelogram. Okay. Do you see? It's base times height. It's page 502. It's in part 2, book 2, in measures and measuration. So I must just find a base and a height. So the height must make 90 degrees with the base. That you must keep in mind. Okay, so let's just go back to the question. And I have to go back to the front to show you that. Can I just show you this is, yes. Because... Now, I want to tell you this. I just want to get that question first. Okay. Before I start, I want to show you what you did in C. Don't just do the sums. Always think of the sketch and what you did. You showed that, can I show you? You showed that MS, okay, I just want to get, you showed, I just want, that MS is perpendicular to PQ. That's what you showed now. Okay. So you showed that that angle is 90. So basically, this is your base. And this is your height. Now, you just need this length, but you have this length. You have it there. So you must just go and find the length of MS. And then you can say base times height. So let's go to the next page. And we're just going to first find, I just want to make it lower. Okay, so we're first going to find the length of MS. Okay, now don't forget that M is, take it from the previous page, just write it here, then it's easier to work with. Okay, I just want to get that, 3 and -1. Okay, again, as I said, this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, now my formula is saying, I just write it again, it's not necessary, it's the difference in x square, I must calibrate this pen, and the difference in y square. So the difference in x, so it's going to be 3 minus -3, and I square, plus, and the difference in y, so -1, -2 square. And that is going to be, so 3 plus 3, that's going to be 9. Do you see? 3 plus 3 is not 9. 3 plus 3 is 6. So it's going to be 6 square plus -3 square, which is going to be 36 plus 9. Okay, which is going to be 40. Oh, let's just put this pen. 45 in the square. Leave it like that. Leave it. Now, don't forget that I said the area of a parallelogram. What is the area of a parallelogram? So the area of, I showed you on page 502. And that was a base times height. So can I just go to the previous page? So remember, we already worked out this was, and I think it's better even to work with that one because that is going to be easier. So 80, and I worked out this one now. That was 45. Okay, so this is your base, this is your height. Okay, and then I'm just going to say, square root 80, or you can use that other value, times, but just don't approximate it first. And if you do that, one of the rules in A is that you just multiply this two basically, and then take the square root. You can actually, what I'm saying is that it's question number 12. Complete the table for the equation y equals 2 over x squared. There it is. And then on the graph below, draw the graph of this point. Now, I think what I'm going to do, I want you to take you to a question in the textbook where there's a lot of graphs. Page 252, this is question 12. Okay, let's just see there. Okay, make it a bit bigger. Okay, doesn't matter. This is just the division. So there's not just a square. The graph is not going to look exactly the same. I'm on page 252. Okay, and that is chapter 6, functions and graphs. Now, if you must complete, you must find P and Q. Then basically, you just go, you take the formula, and in the place of x, you put 5 and you get 10. And you do it with that one also. So in the place of x, you put 45 and you get 1.1. If there's decimals, make it one decimal place. I don't think they expect you to go to 2 decimal places, and also check the other values in the table. It will be an indication. This was to 1 decimal, so make this also to 1 decimal. Then it's very important that you plot all that points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you want to get the mark for plotting, you have to plot all the points. Okay. Then, you draw the graph, then use your graph to find the value of x when y is 4. Okay. So in the place, and now I showed you here, I just want to see. So in the place of y, you put a 4. Okay, so it's like drawing the line y is equal to 4. And where it intersects, you draw down and you are reading down there. Okay, and then they do the same. They said when it's equal to 3. So when the line x is equal, y is equal to 3, there's the line. And again, I find the value there. And then they go right on the algebraic, which will have your answer in E as write down the x coordinates of the points of intersection of the two graphs. Let me just see where was the other graph that you had to find. Okay, there comes the other graph. On the same grid, draw the graph. Make again a table. This is a straight line. So there is you just need 2 points, where it cuts the x-axis, where it cuts the y-axis. Any point, you draw the line. And then they say, but if you want to solve it with algebra, how will you write that equation? You will just, in this, and I'm going to show you now in color. Now I need color. You just, okay, there's your 2 equations. There's your 1 equation. And there is your straight line. Okay, so you are just going to substitute this into this. So basically, in the place of this y, you're just going to put 50 over x. You're just going to put it equal to each other. And that's what I did there. Okay. There was just plotting the point there. 50 over x equals 8 minus x over 5. And then they ask you, find the gradient of the graph. Just be careful. It's always the value in front of x. So you can read it down. There is the value. It can be in front or at the back. You focus on the value in front of x. And grab that sign. That is going to be negative 1 over 5. Okay, so with that in mind, we are going to tackle that question. Okay, so let's just go. Here is the question. Okay, they say, complete the table for the equation. Now, again, you can actually press it on your calculator because you're just going to say for this one, 2, okay, I'm just going to write it over negative 4 squared. And this is negative 3, okay. sorry, take that, 2 over negative 3 square. So that's why I said on your calculator, you can just press it. Say 2, just use this formula. So 2 divide and negative 4, I put it in brackets, like I was writing there. Close the bracket, square equals. Now, usually I let people write it out, but now this is just one term, so I think you can just use your calculator. And then because this is one decimal place, make this also one decimal place. So this is 0.1. So for this one, I press 2, divide, I make a bracket, I write negative 3, I close the bracket and I square it, and I get 0.2. And then I say 2 divide, and now negative 2 square. So if you can already see that one, but it's right, 2 divide, bracket, negative 2, close the bracket, square equals. And then this one is 0.5. And the final one is 2 divide negative 1 square. So 2 divide bracket, negative 1, close the bracket, square equals, and that is 2. Can I just show you? Because it's a parable, or no, it's not really a parable. It's just having some of the things of, I'll show you now, and you must please not make the connection. But do you see there? I'll show you now as soon as I draw the graph. There's a 2, and there's a 2. Okay. I just want to get it pointed. Don't want. There's a 2, there's a 2. There's a 0.5, 0.5, 0.2, 0. It's just, it happens, but rather just do your substitution. Just don't just copy it. And again, it was so lovely. For everyone that you substitute correctly, you got a mark, 4 marks. Now comes the plotting. The plotting is very important that you do that correct. Okay. Now I just need it a little bit bigger, otherwise I'm going to. Now I cannot make it smaller. Okay, so this is going to be, and make sure you plot that points correct, really. So this is negative 4, and okay, first look at your scales. So that is all right, so it's comma 1, so it's negative 0.1, negative 0.2, that's all right. But look at this scale. This scale is 1, and now how many blocks are there? 5, 10, 15, 20. So it's 1 over 20. I must take 1 and divide it by 20. So 1 divide 20, and I get 0.0. I'm writing in the examiners. I don't want to do that. So rather write on this side, 1 over 20, and that's 0.05. Okay, that means every small block is 0 point, but every 2 blocks, and my thing is just 2 blocks. Struggle with my pen, it's not mark where I want to mark. Okay, every 2 blocks will be 0.1. And you can test it by saying, okay, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. Yeah, it's working. Okay, so see if you come there to 0.5. by just going in comma 2s every time. So it's up to there, it's up to there, it's there. Okay, I have the scale. So don't just start because you plot incorrectly because you struggle with the scale. So this is the units that you see on the axis, the y or the x, and that is the amount of blocks, the 1. And then this is the multiples that you count in every block. Okay, now, so if it's negative 0 and negative 0.1, now it's easy because I know the scale and I showed you and it's there. Now, as I said, my pen is just a bit not so calibrated now. So just make sure you plot it correct. Negative 3 and 0.2. Now that's 0.1 and then this is 0.2. And then negative 2, and this is a nice one because it's in the middle there. Like it. Okay, a negative 1 and 2. Okay, and then, where am I now? 1 and 2, the same. It's actually the same, not on, just on the other side. 2 and 0.5, so this plotting was all right. Maybe just the last, make sure. So 3 and 0.2, so 3 and 0.2. This is also as if this graph is looking for me better. I can see it better. Okay, on my technology. Now, sorry, just trying to get it that I'm on that cross. So 3 and 0.2 and 4 and 0.1. Okay, and then I'm taking my pencil. This is why it's good, the pencil. So you must plot all that points, all that 1, 2, 3, 4, all that 8 points. And now I'm just going to just look, and I'm just going to draw this curve. And that was not a nice curve. Let's see if I draw it better. Usually just struggle a little bit on my technology because I cannot move it and things like that. But it's fine. I'm going to just move myself a little bit. Okay. So this is the graph. Now, I always like to say the name of the graph. So it's y is equal to 2 over x squared. That is the graph. Okay. Now we're going to go on. So that was for the plotting. And look how many marks. And I can just read it to you to tell you where you will get marks. You will get 3 points if you plot all 8 correctly. Only 2 points, 6 to 7 correct. 1 point, 4 to 5. And if you draw the curve through it, you get another point. So really make sure you don't make a mistake. And then on the same grid, draw the line y equals, it's very easy. It's not the x, it's just straight. It's because it's y. It's cutting just the y-axis at 1 divided by 4. What is 1 divided by 4? It's 0.25. Now, where is 0.25? That is the most important. There's 0.1. There's 0.2. So 0.25 will be between. There's 0.5 and 0. And I must draw that straight. So I basically, and I'm just going to use another color. Otherwise, it don't stand out enough for me. Okay. And what is this line? This line is y equals a quarter. It's not x, and because it's no x, in this case, it's a horizontal line. If it was x equal, it would have been a vertical line. Okay, now they say solve. Now this, okay, let's rather do it like this. This was my blue line. This is my green line. And they just want me to find, solve means they want the values of x, the roots. So where the two lines intersect, just go and I must take a ruler. So let's just take my ruler and I just go and I read it down and I just go and they give you a little bit, they look on your graph. So according to mine, this is negative 2.8. Okay, now mine looks now a little bit like negative 2.85. Okay, so let's rather go on what mine looking like now. So it negative, when I did it on paper, I got negative 2.8, but now I get x is negative 2.85. Don't forget that negative. That equal sign was not nice. Let me just, that's not nice. I don't like things that's looking that like it can be misreading. Okay, the other one, it looks to me like 2.8. Do you see that one is 2.8? And this is negative 2.85. And again, they gave you a gap. So if you were writing an answer from negative 2.7 to negative 2.9, let's say 2, then they gave you. And this one, 2.7 to 2.9. They gave you 2 marks. Okay, so that was just one for the line and then for this 2 reading down. That was actually a very nice question. Okay, so make sure graphs, practice how to complete the table and everything, and you will be able to do that.